Come on, son.
Raphael on the track.
Come on, son. Come on, son. What up, y'all? This is Ed Lover. It's time for another podcast. Come on, son. Fuck out of here with that bullshit. Today, joining me in the studio, Montell and Kristin Jordan. That's right. That Montell Jordan. That 6 to 10 #1 R&B hit, Montell Jordan. And he's in with his wife. And we're going to talk a little bit about his book, Becoming Unfamous, the journey from how we do it to how he do it. And this is how we do it, making your marriage a masterpiece. Montell is now the worship leader at Victory World Church in Norcross, Georgia, formerly of R&B singer-songwriter and superstar singer, best known for the 1995 single, This Is How We Do It, and, of course, the writer of How Did You Get Here, from the one and only Deborah Cox, okay? Back in the days, Montell was the solo artist on Def Jam's Def Soul imprint until leaving the label in 2003. In 2010, he left the music business totally to become the worship leader at Victory World Church in Norcross, Georgia. All right, so welcome to our show, Montell Jordan and his wife, Kristin, right here. Come on, son. I want to welcome Montell and Kristin Jordan to the Come On Son podcast. Long time, brother. How you been, man?
I'm fantastic, man. Good to see you.
You too, man. From performer to pastor, fame to faith, success to significance. I saw the unsung that they did on you, and I thought it was fantastic.
Thank you.
And I was like, wow, look at my man's life come full circle. Is that how you feel about it?
Well, what was crazy is the unsung wasn't supposed, we didn't know it was supposed to be that. Like literally, we thought it was just a musical thing. It actually has become like one of the largest ministry tools that either of us could ever even imagine. Like churches or couples from all over call us, not based on, oh, we like your musical stuff, but based on, hey, my marriage is going through this, and I saw your story. Do y'all counsel? Can we meet with y'all? Y'all can help us save our marriage. So literally it became one of the biggest ministry tools that we could ever have, just thinking we were just trying to tell some of our musical story.
Really?
Yeah.
How long, Kristin, how long you been married to this big lummox right here?
Man, it'll be 24 years in June.
24 years. Wow.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And that's official all 20.
That's not like my 15, huh? My 3 married and the 12, whatever together. 24
to
straight.
each other. Yeah, 24 straight.
24 straight.
Yeah.
How did y'all meet? I want your wife to tell the story. I don't want to hear your story, Montell.
We actually met at the craziest of places at a fraternity ball. And he was a Kappa and I'm a Zeta, and we were in an Alpha ball. We had no.
What is a Kappa and a Zeta doing at an Alpha ball?
Right. That's what.
Being out of pocket.
Did they know you was in it?
Being out of your lane.
Yeah, you was way out of your lane on that one. Both of y'all were.
We were. Actually, my best friend was AK, and his brother was an Alpha, and that's how we ended up there.
Okay.
And he saw me from afar, and let's just say, I mean, he kept bothering me. Like he was like, "Yo, you want to dance?" I was like, "No, I'm good." And basically, after a while, I was like, "All right, then. If I dance with you, will you leave me alone?" And he was like, yeah. And so me and my girl was dancing. We was just chilling and talking and not really paying them any mind. And so then Kid and Play comes on, and they go into full-scale Running Man. And, at 16, that's, yo.
Listen.
You doing the Kid Play, kick step and everything, leg lock, spin around, the whole 9 yards.
Real talk.
Yo, I did more than that. First of all, they wasn't paying me. See, she got her story, and I got the truth.
Okay.
Okay, so just a piece of it.
Always.
I was doing everything. Like when the music kicked, even the Ed Lover, when I'm going in and getting no love. Like, no attention, like no nothing. And so it was like, okay, come on now. So when I go into full-blown Kid and Play and full-blown Running Man, then it's like, oh, hold on, I'll talk to you. Just stop dancing.
Just stop dancing is what you
If you stop dancing, if I talk to you, will you stop dancing?
If I talk to you, will you stop dancing?
Yeah.
Was this full high top fade, Montell Jordan?
Oh, yeah, this is wild style.
Cut
and remember,
eyebrow.
Big Daddy
Kane, Montell. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Were you working on music at the time? Were you always interested in working on music?
At that time, man, the pre-stories of all of before we got into the business, like she used to be a singer. She was in a music group. I was just a producer. Like we were out in Cali. Like we was deep up in Cali. Like we was producing and hanging out with dudes like Michael Conception and like we was like
like I know Mike very well.
Yeah, we was in the thick. Back then. So this was long before I ever thought I was going to be an artist. I was just a church musician, and now we're trying to produce these groups and everything, and I'm taking them, and we're going to little talent shows, Budweiser, Best in the West, trying to get this group on.
What was the name of said group, Kristin?
Innocence.
Innocence. Girl group?
In a sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Like
girl
in
group.
a sense?
In a sense.
Oh, okay. In a sense, but in a sense.
Yeah.
Like senses. Okay,
exactly.
I get it.
Yeah. And we would go places, and then I would do a couple songs, too.
And this joker would win.
And I'm winning.
I was like, yo, I'm on the wrong side of this deal, cuz. We got to figure this out.
Yeah. So it didn't
funny.
work out, and the odds were not in their favor. So.
When did the group disband? When did Innocence disband?
Literally, it's so funny.
Yeah.
There's a couple stories there.
Okay.
Okay.
We have plenty of time. This is a podcast.
Okay,
We're
cool.
not in a rush.
Well, let me give a hypothetical then.
Okay.
Hypothetically, we're producing their album and their projects in this house somewhere in South Central LA.
Okay.
Bars on the house, we in the hood, but there's a studio in there.
Right.
We've been in there.
Remain nameless.
Yes, it shall remain nameless. But we're in there and we're recording, and then one day, we happen to be up in the studio, and it seems like we're seeing guns and white powder and things like just kind of walking by in the back of the house, and it was kind of like, that shouldn't probably be in the studio.
Yeah,
like
this is starting to seem like a trap house to me.
It was.
Before there was such a thing as a
trap
house.
before it was even,
Right.
the South, but out there, it was just straight up, it was crazy. So we figured out, okay, we got to figure out how to get up out of here, and then, we kind of ran into some issues with the guys whose home it was and the producer, and it was like, nah, cuz, we going to record this music. It was like, I kind of sound like Snoop. It was not Snoop. If you just heard that, it was not Snoop. So basically we had to have this great big fight, a big blowout, and everybody scatter. And basically I was going to be the fall guy to be able to say, hey, let them go. They ain't nothing anyway. I'll stay and I'll produce and work with you. And so the girls were able to get out, and then I hung out there for another week or two or whatever, and then ultimately we just was able to walk away.
Okay.
That was God.
Yeah, God saved us, because crazy enough as this guy was threatened, and he was like, you want to see what happens? And literally we're watching the news. He's like, that's what happens. And there was a house shot up, and we were like, definitely in the wrong place. This is not going to work out.
This is real time. This is South Central LA.
Yeah, and this is the hunger that a young artist has.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
At any cost, like you want to record. I've been in some situations where it was like, what are we doing in this studio in this place at this time?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But a lot of young artists find themselves in that kind of a pressure situation. Like, I really want to do this.
I want to get put on.
Dream. I want to get put on.
Yeah.
I want to do this thing, and I will do it no matter where.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is, we did it for 7 years before we ever got on, if you will. So we
really
people always be, overnight success. 7 years of overnight.
7 years.
Yeah.
When did it switch to the focus being on Montell?
It was right after that, because after that I was like, I'm good on it. It's not worth it for me for that. And honestly, he was winning all the contests, so I was like, you know what? I'm on the wrong side of this deal. Like, I got to be on the business side.
So those
really
who don't
good
record manage. went into the managerial side.
Yeah.
And literally, I was between there. I wanted to be a producer. I had other guys that I wanted to be in groups with. It was, even when you go back and listen to my older music, Ed, it's like I had big harmonies on a lot of different, because I always wanted to be in a group. I never wanted to be like a solo artist. So from that standpoint, the idea of, I had my boys with me. I'm trying to get put on, and I'm recording music like Guy and like that sounds like, I'm trying to sound like everybody else that's out there, and dudes were coming at me like, yo, I really like you, but you sound like Aaron Hall. You sound like R. Kelly. You sound like this guy. You sound like that guy.
Well, R. Kelly did sound like Aaron Hall at first.
Yeah.
That's right.
Sound just like Aaron Hall.
I was like, well, it worked for him.
Right.
Yeah. But no, ultimately, that's when I had to try and find what my voice sounded like musically. And so she was like, yo, when you ready to dump those other guys and go solo, let me manage you and we can do something. I'm
The irony is that when he was in those groups, he was doing rap. And he was doing it was more like Dougie Fresh, the show kind of joint. And
okay.
I actually don't see him sing until he invites me to church. And I saw him sing and I was like, what are we doing? That's the lick. That's what we need to be doing.
Okay.
I was like, you could really
so it was more of what you happened to infuse when This Is How We Do It came out and you were sing rapping.
Exactly.
When all they said was 6'8", you was on a lot of that.
Listen, I love Slick Rick. That was my mentor back then. So all his stylings, even the British accent, all that whole thing, that was like part of my stuff. Growing up in California, we would go up to Six Flags Magic Mountain rather than riding the rides. We'd be out there in ciphers and stuff, like spitting bars outside the gates. And I won't say a bona fide rapper, but literally I was just out there spitting bars. Singing was just something I kind of did at church. And so the idea of trying to create something that didn't sound like R. Kelly and didn't sound like Aaron Hall, that didn't sound like Guy, was me trying to take rap lyrics and then sing them. So exactly how you said it.
And exactly what's happening now.
I was writing rap lyrics back then. I was just writing rap lyrics.
That's what's happening now.
Yeah.
That's what Drake is doing and a host of other artists are doing.
I was Drake before Drake was Drake.
But 23 years ago, Drake.
That's a quotable. I was Drake before Drake was Drake.
Before Drake was Drake, and so was Slick Rick to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely opened the door for that vibe and the melody.
Yeah.
There's a lot of melody in the music, but Rick was taking old R&B songs and "If You See Me Walking Down the Street" and Mona Lisa, so many names.
And that's what I loved, and so that's what I said. I would write. I reach for my 40 and I turn it up. Designated driver, take the keys to my truck, and then take that's straight hip. Da 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 da.
Right.
Designated driver, take the keys. That's rhythmic. But then designated driver, take the keys to my truck, and I started adding melodies to the whole hip hop thing and. That was just something that hadn't been done at the time. And the perfect marriage was that because Def Jam, was bubbling on the streets and couldn't get records or radio play. This was, rap wasn't played on the radio at that time.
Right.
When I came out with This Is How We Do It, radio stations, R&B stations loved it, but they wouldn't even play my rap. Yeah,
I remember that.
They wouldn't play it because it had rap on it. So they would play This Is How We Do It and take my rap out of it. And so it wasn't until when my records were coming out, Def Jam started doing this thing where they would take their artists and put LL's bars on them or put Warren G's bars on them, and that's how they started infiltrating R&B radio by having hot R&B songs.
Because they were already hot in hip hop.
Yeah, they were
Def
hot
Jam
on the street and hot
bubble.
in
Who
hip-hop.
took you to Def Jam?
That was DJ Paul Stewart.
Okay.
And that's a funny story. But DJ Paul Stewart was the one that saw me out in California. He was working for John Singleton at the time.
Okay.
And John Singleton was my fraternity brother. He was doing New Deal records, and Paul worked for New Deal. But Paul was also at the time kind of trying to work on something with Russell to bring a Def Jam West out to the West Coast. And so that's how he got his imprint, Power Move Productions. And so we was rolling with Paul.
Okay, so Paul introduced you to
introduced me to Russell,
to the Def Jam family.
Yeah,
and the whole crew over there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was.
Paul was a DJ at my party the year before. Like we used to throw street parties, and so he was a DJ, and I was like, wait, you got a deal? I was like, all right. So we gave him a ratty cassette, literally, because we didn't think we weren't sure.
Right.
But then he sure did deliver.
He took it out. He was trying to scrape up. If he couldn't get Dr. Dre or whoever, he would take Warren G, take his cousin. He was trying to find all the West Coast singers, rappers, Domino, myself, all those, and try and get them out to New York to get that New York imprint in California. He did.
Wow. Yeah, he did it. Was Domino under his umbrella also?
He had Domino out there.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Actually, I'm lying to you. It wasn't Domino. It was who was it? The guy. Was it Domino?
Yeah,
was Domino?
But he did it by at the time he was messing with Coolio. And that's how he got into that whole thing.
There's a bunch of us, man. I know we ended up out at the Time Cafe in New York City, and I had the $70 in my pocket that Kristin gave me because we was dating at the time. And literally, I'm out there. It's funny. I'll just tell this real quick. We're sitting out at the Time Cafe. All the artists that Russell had brought out there. Warren's out there. We all just kind of sitting at the table, and we had a restaurant. And I'm opening up the menu, and it's super expensive because like I ain't never traveled before, and I'm looking on the left side of the menu.
Right. You're on the appetizer side.
Yeah. And even the appetizers is like $19. And so the waiter comes over. He's like, "Yeah, so what you order? You have some drinks? Yeah, I'll get water, and let me get the grilled cheese. Grilled cheese was like $19. I'm like, yeah, let me get the grilled cheese." And
New York City.
And finally, Russell's driver kind of leans over, he nudged me. He said, "Russell's gonna pay for it."
Who that, Kenny? Was it Kenny?
Russell's gonna pay for it. So yeah, let me get the grilled cheese and the steak. and the steaks.
As a matter of fact, bring me a drink now.
Yeah,
right?
So he let me in.
Wow, that is incredible. What year did you sign to Def Jam?
Signed in 93, December of 93.
93.
Worked on the album all in 94.
And put out an album January 95.
January 95. How long were you officially signed to Def Jam?
I was with Def Jam for, was it?
A year and a month.
You mean total in duration?
Yeah, in duration of your R&B career at Def Jam.
We were there for the first 8 years.
Yeah, I think we did 8 years.
8 years.
I said that like we was doing time.
Yeah,
I did 8 years.
What happened that the marriage between you guys and Def Jam fell apart?
We had a great relationship. If I'm honest, we were good with Russell, Lior, Kevin. I think the reality of it, one, like I said, God had His hand on a lot of stuff because it was what I was gifted to do, but not necessarily what I was called to do as far as purpose goes. And so we had built ourselves into this box of being able to do up-tempo records, party records. Whether it was trap records like Master P or Get It On Tonight or This Is How We Do, we had up-tempo records. And so Def Jam would come out the gates and know how to put me with a rap artist, and we have a hit, top 10 hit, #1 record. People will say, Montell, he's a one-hit wonder. When they say that, I'm like, okay, which one hit?
How are you talking about?
Because I got 5 or 6 #1 records, and so from that standpoint, it was like we got into this mode of we would have hit ballads. I mean, we would have smash, dope records, Jodeci type records, but Def Jam could never break. The stuff that they did with Neo later, or I was the guinea pig, and so as long as we had an up tempo,
that sucked.
We were good.
It did suck.
But then we would have these dope ballads, and they could not convert the ballad, and so they would scrap that album and go to the next album, and then I give them a #1 up tempo record, and then when we go to the second single, they can't break the second single.
But did they understand that we had already discovered those records from your album, and all they had to do was do some real work?
Well, the thing is that at the time, like, that just wasn't their skill set. Like, in other words, like, and they would try it, but then when they would do the wrong single from somebody else, then they'd try and come behind it with ours, and they'd be like, yeah, no, we heard of your whack ballad before. It's like, yeah, but they're not the same.
Right.
And so then, but it's funny to me because then at that point, then we started writing, and so they would try and get records that we were writing for other artists. For their artists, we're like, no, you're going to kill us. We'll take them to somebody else. But I mean, we wrote Deborah Cox, Nobody's Supposed to Be Here.
Right.
And we wrote...
Huge record for Deborah Cox. And probably one of the biggest records of her career.
Funny, the craziest thing is we were just watching the Unsung they did on Deborah.
Deborah Cox Unsung.
And the We Can't Be Friends with RL, that was Montell who demoed that record. And Def Jam
it was supposed to be me and Deborah Cox, but Def Jam didn't want us to do it because they were like, yo, she's real R&B. We're trying to keep our hip-hop credibility, and so we need to keep him in this up-tempo lane. And, so for hood cred or whatever, they took me off. They took me off the record, and so there was no We Can't Be Friends. Yeah. I'm still on this. If you listen to the backgrounds, I'm singing a verbally we agreed it was over and we were through. That's me and Shep. We're singing the background.
Oh, wow.
So we were still there.
That had to be dumb frustrating for you.
It was tough.
And that's kind of in how it ends up ending is that we wanted to go in an R&B direction, and they were like, we just don't know what to do with that.
Well, it was we don't know what to do with that, and two, at the time we were in a place that we had done now 4 albums. We hadn't converted those ballads in the way, and so it was like, so we had not gotten cocky, but there was a part of us that was also like, hey, if y'all can't convert this record, you know, we got this record called You Must Have Been. It's a dope record. Gabrielle Union's in the video. It's super hot, and you can't convert this record at radio. What's wrong with y'all? And so we kind of was popping off at the mouth too. So
yeah,
when we parted ways, it was kind of like, we put out an album of hits that we loved. They were like, we're not necessarily feeling it. So it was like, well, maybe it's time for us to part ways.
How delicate is that balance between what you really want to do as an artist and, as you know, just as a human being, the direction that you want to take in dealing with a major record company like a Def Jam or Interscope or anybody else like that, trying to tell you what you should be doing? It
was tough for us because Def Jam was like family for us.
Very much.
And so when you have family, you can also have dysfunctional family. So here's real talk. Like, okay, so Kevin Lyles is my man. To this day, that's my man.
Right.
I can remember we were in Puerto Rico shooting a video for a song I did in a couple different languages. What was it? What was the song? Once Upon a Time. Había una vez. You know, and we're there, and we're getting makeup, and we're sitting there, and I'm having a conversation with a dude who's almost like my industry father now, because Russell has stepped out, Leor's moved on, and now Kevin is now moving up as the president. And I remember we're having a conversation there in Puerto Rico, and I'm talking about, hey, with these records, can I, you know, get this person on the record, or can we do this? And he basically told me, you got to understand, man, he was like, there's A-list artists, and then there's like B and C-list artists. He's like, you're not an A-list artist, Money. You're like a lower B, C artist. And so when you're a C-list artist, you can do this and this and this, but you can't do this. Now, this is my musical parent that's telling me, you're not A-list. You're not Mariah. You're not this person. You're a C. You're a mid-level lower B to a C. And so that's what I took. Like, okay, maybe that's me then. Maybe I'm just C, and I can rock with, you know, this person gets this rapper, and I'm cool with Reggie Noble. He's my man. Like, and that was how the mentality was. You have these tiers of artistry. And so I could never break through to do anything greater because they didn't believe that I was an A-list artist. So I didn't believe I was an A-list artist.
And the thing that would kill me was they didn't believe in the beginning. Like when I brought them the record, they didn't believe in the record. Leor was actually the only one that believed in the record. And I had to convince them. I remember going to, where was that? That steakhouse we was at.
The Morton's?
The Morton's Steakhouse in Los Angeles. And I'm telling them about the record, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to sell a million records. They're like, yeah, okay, Money, if we sell 300,000 records, we're good. We're good on it. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, he was like, yeah, whatever. And we literally sat there and went back and forth. But the crazy piece of this was that they only printed 200,000 records when they first started. This is when it took forever.
This is when it took forever to print records.
To actually print, right? So then when we come out the box selling 80,000 units, they're like, wait, oh, snap. We got to make more records. So they only
printed 200,000 of This Is How We Do It?
Yeah. So what's crazy is...
That's how we end up selling 1.7 million singles. Because they're trying to figure out how to make the albums.
They had to make more albums. It took them longer to print the albums, so they just printed more singles. And then when they started getting the #1 single, and they realized, okay, the singles are doing 100,000, 105,000, 107,000 every single week. They're like, well, let's just keep...
Let's make this clear, ladies and gentlemen.
Not streaming.
We are talking about selling, and this thing bothers me to no end. Okay, because you can put on Drake Pandora or Drake on whatever streaming service you want, and it's Drake, and Drake will play, and then the Yo Gotti will come on, and Yo Gotti gets credit for that stream when you didn't press the button for Yo Gotti. And nothing against Yo Gotti. Love his music. But these people are getting credit for streams that are not necessarily their stream.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? You didn't put that person on, but that person just came on randomly within what they thought analytically is the kind of music that you want to hear. And this person is getting a plaque for a stream. And the reason why I want to make this clear to everybody listening, especially if you're on the younger end of the spectrum you're listening, is because when we liked something, we went to the store and bought it. That's
we did.
different. That's investing in that artist. Not, oh, I just happened to catch this record by Young Black whoever or Little Gucci Xanax or whatever them cats' name is, and that's going to be a whole nother live podcast. But we support it. And when you say I sold 1,000,007 singles, that means 1,700,000 people went into a store and said, give me that Montell Jordan record.
Yeah.
And that to me means way more than 1,000,007 streams. I'm sorry.
This is before discs. This is cassette.
This is cassettes. I know I had the cassette.
Yeah.
I remember them giving me the cassette.
Yeah.
I remember somebody from Def Jam, I don't remember exactly who it was, handing me this cassette.
Yeah.
And say, yo, this is the new joint. We just signed this kid, Montell Jordan. I was like, okay, what is this? And I popped it in and I was like, oh, hell no. He's not going to disrespect the great Slick Rick. You know, I'm classic. I'm classic. Like, Rick is a god. And then you rock with it.
Yeah.
And then you like, wow, this record this is a big record right here.
Yeah.
Infectious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. Rick and his wife Mandy, like, we're friends.
Love Rick
we
and
love-
Mandy. Don't you love Rick and Mandy?
man. Love them.
Some of the best humans on the
Oh,
planet.
absolutely.
Love them.
Mandy deserves all the credit in the world. I mean,
She's
the
a
way
genius.
the way she went out for Rick, that's a ride or die.
She's a
Yeah.
She would not let the government deport her husband. She
Yeah.
was not having it. She was on the phone with every
Everybody.
single person. She's on the phone with me. We got the whole organization. Russell got behind it. Everybody was like, nah. Because what people don't understand is Rick doesn't have any family there.
Yeah.
So they're going to deport him back to England.
what are you gonna do there?
What?
Right.
What are you gonna do there?
Who do you know? There's no mom. There's no dad. There's no who you staying with.
Yeah.
Just like dump them off of England. So Mandy, man, she went
All
Yeah.
in.
all in.
Her and I laugh and joke all the time. If we had met back in the day, it would have been
Yeah.
a different scenario. It'd have been a music takeover.
Yeah, probably because you two are like mine. How did at the height of his popularity, and I saw this on Unsung. You touched on it a little bit. Him being with you, but not being able to say,
Yeah.
this is my woman. This is the one I love. This is my wife. Y'all been together forever.
Forever. Yeah.
How did that affect your relationship?
Well, it's crazy because honestly, when we first signed to Def Jam, they were like, yo, okay, so we know you're married and all that's great and cute and everything, but if you want people to take you seriously as a manager, like, they're not going to. So, because you're the wife. So if you want people to take you seriously, you're not gonna say that. You're not gonna say you're his wife.
But it was okay for Brandy's mom to manage her.
Well, the crazy thing
Mama Norwood, shout out to her.
I think it's different when you're the wife versus because you married. Like, as if I got the gig because I'm the wife, but I was his manager before I was his wife.
Right.
But they were like, so what?
She was managing when we was back in the trap house. Like, you didn't see all that.
Right.
But the crazy thing is that for me, I co-signed it. And that was the craziness of it, is that we were brainwashed to believe that this was the best thing. But honestly, it was the most divisive and undermining thing that we could have ever did, was to sign off on that, because like the implications of what that meant is it put him in really crazy situations, because, you know, girls thought he was single. Guys would come at me. I can remember some of the rappers at Def Jam coming up. I was like, yo, this is bugged out. Like, coming at me crazy. And I was like, they don't know.
They don't know that we're married.
Yeah.
We actually, it was crazy. It came out, we were on a MTV red carpet, and like he slipped up. Like, he was like, yeah, this is my wife. I was like, yo!
You just outed me, son. You just outed me.
Come on, son.
No, but really,
now?
it was like, yeah. The crazy thing is, and I never want to put it all on the label to say they brainwashed this or that, because we wanted it.
Oh, yeah.
At the time, we wanted.
I wanted.
Young and hungry, though.
I was young, hungry. I'm an artist. I want to be famous. I want all those things at the time. She wants to be this independent woman. She want to be respected. All those different things. And so I didn't know if I could be a good husband. I didn't know if I could be a good father. I didn't know if I could be a good man. I know I could be a good artist. She didn't know if she could be a good wife. She didn't know if she could be a good mother. She knew she could be a good manager. So the idea, and this was a formula, and it worked. The idea was, if guys want to be you and girls want to be with you, you got it.
You got it.
You gotta have both.
That's right.
And so the idea was,
and you 6'8".
Yeah, you tall.
I remember when I first met him,
dude,
in Los Angeles, I was like, "This is Montell Jordan. This dude too tall to be an R&B singer." You remember I told you that?
I remember.
I'm like, "You're too damn tall to be an R&B singer, dog."
I remember.
I'm like, "Don't dance, just sing." Because you remember Shaq used to dance all the time, and Shaq looked ridiculous. I just don't dance, but it worked.
Yeah.
Smooth it on the other side of the pillow, bro, for sure.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when did you learn to be a good husband? Because there was times when you weren't.
Yeah, it was a lot of times.
There's a lot of times when you were a horrible husband.
I was not a good husband. I think I had to learn that, and I had to learn that the hard way. And this was probably 7 years in to the marriage, 7 years into the music business. All those bits and pieces, we kind of came to a head of where I had done probably so much dirt, just from the standpoint of, and not being a bad guy doing dirt, like the good guy doing dirt. Like, this is not the guy that's just habitually running out there and just getting into foul play, and I'm just going to hide this. I was the dude, like, I would find myself falling deeper and deeper in situations, and then going back to God, like, "God, why am I this way? Fix me, change me, change my heart. I don't want to do this." I wasn't, I was a believer in God, but I wasn't really a disciple. I wasn't really following God like that. And so I would like get these fixes. I like to call it the idea of counterfeit intimacy. I wasn't intimate with my wife the way I should have been. And so for me, intimacy was, so after we film the show here, we're going to all go have lunch together? Cool, let's do that. After we do that, then we're going to all have dinner together? Cool. So I was cool being out on the road, just having relationships with whoever, family with whoever. I remember my mother once said to me, because my mother had been in a couple different relationships, a couple different marriages one that had failed, and then one where the husband had died. And just in conversation with my mom, one day she said to me, "I would rather be with the wrong person than to be alone." Now, I just think about that. Now, different story now. She's with, with her husband. They're fantastic marriage. All that is wonderful. But I remember that, and that was me, DNA-wise. I would just rather be with whoever rather than be alone. Ed, I'm out on the stage, and I got 30,000 people, 70,000 people in the Georgia Dome, and they screaming, "Montell, Montell, Montell." I'm like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I come off the stage, and then I go back to the hotel room, and I close the door, and there's nobody screaming no more. So it's like, after that, else, it's like, okay, so what y'all doing? Y'all want to go catch a movie? Y'all want to play Monopoly? Back in the day, we would be sitting up with Mike Kaiser and Ken playing, when Jay-Z say play Monopoly with real cash, we would be up playing Monopoly in the middle of the night because nobody wanted to go back and be alone. And so I found myself in those places of being in the wrong places, falling deeper and deeper and deeper, going to God saying, "Hey, God, fix me. What is going on with me?" And finally, me asking over and over again for God to fix me. Finally and horribly, God said, "Okay, yes, I'll fix it." And he fixed it by exposing me. He fixed it by saying, "I'm going to pull the sheet back. I'm pulling the cover off of this whole thing, and it's going to hurt like hell, but I'm going to be gracious enough to allow it to happen where can't everybody see it." Yeah. And so it was guised as us moving from California to Atlanta because that was supposed to be the new hotbed for music. It's closer to New York. We're moving to the South. And during that time, basically, we just left all the family, all the friends, all the producers, all the music people we had been around that had been shielding me from my dirt. And when we moved away, then that's when God uncovered, and finally a friend just came out, and they were a friend, and they just said, "Hey, we can't keep hanging with y'all like this. This is a mess. And Montell, you need to tell your wife." And I was like, oh, okay. My options were, and because you asked the question, when did I become a good husband? The option was either I tell my wife what I'm doing and live some form of life, whatever that looks like, or somebody else tell her, and I end up not living at all. Real talk.
Real talk.
But they say a lot of times that women know. You know, right?
Honestly,
not exactly what.
In analyzing after the fact, I knew. And here's the truth: like, I was busy being a manager. I told him from the gate, like, I'm gonna make you $1 million, but I'm not gonna make you eggs. Are you good with that? Like, I didn't want to be a wife. Like, none of that. Like, I wasn't sure I could be successful in that. So literally, my prize and my eye was on multi-million-dollar company, as many artists as possible. Like, it was that. Producers, that. So I was really focused on that. I wasn't thinking about being a good wife. I wasn't thinking about, what did you think was happening when you left him out here for 2 and 3 months at a time? Like, what did you really think? Like, when I look back at it now, it's ridiculous. Like, but now I have a different perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And then I just didn't have that perspective. Now when I see those things and I see the people, because a lot of them, that we found out the dirt was happening, these were people that were my so-called friends, right? Mm. Yeah, so it made it real crazy that all of it got exposed. But what I realized is that, I had threatened all of them. Like I said, if anything pops off, all of y'all losing your job. Nobody was going to say nothing to me. Nobody was going to say.
It was on payroll.
I got to pay my mortgage. I'm definitely not saying nothing,
Right.
But this friend, like she said, she exposed it, but she really ends up being the catalyst to save our marriage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So God pulls the cover back on the whole thing. I come clean. And the crazy thing is that, when you're carrying the weight of sin on you, like it's internal guilt, shame, you carrying that around, but I also was carrying it externally because I believe what's on the inside is ultimately going to come out. Yeah. And so I'm like crazy weight. I'm close to 280, 290 pounds. I'm big and, man titties, everything. Like I'm just big and not, but I'm wearing all these different things on the outside because of the sin that was eating me up on the inside. And literally when God allowed me the opportunity to be able to share and come clean, I told her, first of all, everything.
Yeah, and I told him, I was like,
everything.
I need to know everything because at the time I was the kind of girl like, listen, if somebody comes to me on the red carpet and says something slick, like this is gonna be TMZ, like real talk.
Before
like so
TMZ,
you better tell
everything.
Me everything. Like I want to know
single detail.
Everything.
And literally, we had to go from here all the way to the farthest part of Alabama and back to hear all of that.
Right.
We hopped in the car, just started driving. I'm driving, and I just asked because I had asked God, give me that freedom, and so literally, I'm saying everything that come to my mind for the 7 years, everything.
Yeah.
Like and just honestly, shout to you, babe, because I don't know a lot of women that can handle that.
Who's driving?
I'm driving.
Okay, thank God.
Hey, I got to be.
We would have ended up in a ditch.
I wasn't stupid, Ed.
Both of us.
Yeah. I was a bastard. I wasn't stupid.
Right. Not dumb bastard. Just a bastard.
So, but yeah. So, but I everything I could think of, and I'm just literally I'm saying, even asking God, I don't want to miss nothing. Anything that comes to mind, you gotta. I don't care if I was holding hands. I don't care if it was in the bathroom, whatever it was. God, bring it to my mind. I gotta get it. And literally, as I'm driving, I'm giving more. I'm giving more. I'm giving more. I'm getting lighter. I'm getting lighter. And basically, after that trip to Alabama, I got free. Mm-hmm. I got free. Now, what that did to her though, because I'm dumping all this.
Yeah. And I'm dumping it on your wife.
All on my wife.
Right.
Yeah. So I got healed at that time, but now she's carrying what I've been carrying for 7 years in darkness. And so now we got to try and walk through that together to try and figure out what that looks like. But at that point, that's when I started to become, and that wasn't even it, but that's when I started to realize I need to be a husband before I'm a Def Jam artist, before I'm a singer, before I'm a songwriter. Because let me say this and I'll pass it on. The question that I started asking, because at this point we moved to Atlanta, we're not getting records placed like we should. A lot of different things is kind of shutting down. And so I'm asking God, what am I supposed to do, if I'm not doing music? I would say I love music so much. I don't know what I would, the quote is, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have music. Mm-hmm. And so God would say to me, oh, I'm glad you don't know. I'll show you. And so that's when the doors start closing, producing start closing, songs start closing, fame starts closing, all that thing shut down. And that's when I had to learn, okay, without music, who are you? Without music, I'm a husband. Without music, I'm a father. Without music, I'm a friend. I had to learn how if I never picked up a microphone again, who am I? And that was when I started to determine that I was going to be a husband over being a musical person. I had to learn that that music doesn't make me. I make music.
That's very, very deep right there. Music doesn't make me. I make music. And then you go on, and I think what a lot of people, a big misconception about you both is that people don't know that you were already rooted in church before, quote unquote, Montell Jordan.
That's right.
That church was already a big part of your life. Like she said, you took her to church, and you know, then things started really rolling after you took her to church. So a return to church wasn't really an unlikely move for you.
No, not at all. I think for her, I mean, the relationship between she and I was flirting to convert. Because she didn't really know church like that, you know, growing up. And then during our dating time, that's when she was introduced to church. But to your point, Ed, it wasn't a return to church. It was a return to Christ. Because church, I was always, even as a kid, I was always in church, but church wasn't always in me.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah. So I was there. I knew all the technical things to do in church. I knew how to follow the pastor. I knew how to musically draw emotion. I knew how to do all those things. But as far as it actually functioning and being something inside of me that was alive, I can't say that was accurate. And so it was a return.
Because your eye was on something different.
Oh, yeah.
Your eye was on pop stardom.
Yeah.
Your eye was on money, and your eye was on this, that, and whatever, wherever else you were thinking about at the time. When did you become an ordained pastor?
I became licensed pastor in.
So you can marry people.
Oh yeah.
Mary, bury, and dip. Mary, that's what I say. Mary, bury, and baptize. Say Mary, bury, and dip.
Right.
Yeah. I became licensed in January of 2011, and then I want to say it was 2015 that I got ordained.
2 years later.
Yeah. Was it 2 years? I thought it was.
No, your wife know more than you do.
Yes, she do.
You
So
know
2 years later.
Talk when our wives talking. They know.
2 years later, I was ordained.
They know more about what we do than what we do. What year was that, man? That was 97. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
There you go. Yeah. Whatever she says is right.
So, yeah. And when did you guys decide to start writing books and doing different things of that? And tell people about your books.
So we actually, I was producing in the church. I had been producing his whole career, and I had managed the whole time. So when we went into ministry, I started producing for the church and producing services and stuff like that. And so I was actually producing a service, and the Lord was like, I want you to go home and write a book. I was like, okay, wait. First it was sell your company, give everything away. Then it was going to full-time ministry. And now you want me to go home and write a book and be a stay-at-home. Okay, wait. That can't be God. Like
the devil's at work.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was crazy because the thing is that you would never be asking me to do something that isn't for benefit of people if it wasn't you, right?
Right.
So he's telling me to write a book about marriage, and I was like, okay, God, that's a little extreme. You know, we've been through a rough. Yes, I want you to tell your story. Because there's nothing more powerful than your story. A lot of people can teach from the perspective of Bible. You know, the same book. It's been around forever, right? But nobody has your experiences. And the reason I took you through all these things was so that you could help other people walk through darkness and walk through things that you've been through. So I was like, okay. So I didn't listen. And 6 weeks, and then I basically got a back injury. And for 6 weeks, I was on my back, laying up at the ceiling like, And God was like, so did you want to talk about that? I was like, yeah, let's talk about that. And so during that time, I went in right after I healed and resigned, and we started writing a book. And then I would write a chapter, and I'd give it to him, and then he would write.
And then I would fix it. No, not fix it. No, she's a phenomenal writer. She would write, and she would give her perspective of how she saw everything, and then I would take it and kind of like a he say she say. I would see what she wrote, and then I would say, yeah, here's what I was seeing at that time, because you know we can all see the exact same event, and if we all gave a recount of what it was, you know. You know, we could be sitting right here, and I could bump into her, and then say, what happened in here, and then you say, oh, she leaned over into his fist. You know, it's
right.
You know, so we would line up the book from that standpoint and just start to come. And the book is called "This Is How We Do It," making your marriage a masterpiece. And literally, the idea was, let's just tell our story. Let's put God's word and just wrap everything around that, and just see if this can help somebody else make it through. Because we were very, very successful in the music business. We sold every album that I had done with Def Jam was gold or platinum. Every single I ever released was gold or platinum. You know, I think in the history of Def Jam, we sold probably over 10 million records. You know, and so we were very successful at that, but we were not significant. And so this is a cool moment, Ed. I think you'll appreciate this. One of the moments that kind of helped us with this, because were writing this, and this other book is called Becoming Unfamous, the journey of how we do it to how he do it. Because when we wrote the marriage book, a lot of people were saying, well,
you were an R&B artist, and
this
now
is how we
you're
do
like
it guy.
You know, marriage guy.
Right. Does that bother you?
You know, does that bother me?
Yeah.
Oh, that changed my life. That changed that whole being a "This Is How We Do It" guy.
Yeah,
it changed my life. I was I tell the story that I died on Twitter a couple of years ago. I died on Twitter,
right
before the books. Do you remember anybody? I don't know. Yeah, I died on Twitter. I got killed on Twitter.
Okay.
I was in my car with my son Skylar at the time. He was maybe 9 or 10, and we went to go play football. And so I put my phone in the car. I went out into the park. I didn't want to be disturbed. We out there playing catch. And in a matter of an hour and a half, I get killed on Twitter. So when I hop back in the car, my phone is literally on fire, like almost smoking. And I'm like looking like, what's going on? My wife is calling me. My mom is calling me. And I'm looking because, you know, it's social media. And I see Montell Jordan found dead in his downtown Atlanta condo. You know, and so I start scrolling through Twitter. You know, anybody ever wanted to be at your own funeral?
Exactly.
And know what people are going to say?
Yeah.
This was my opportunity, so I wanted to see what people were going to say. And so I'm now going through Twitter, and I'm scrolling, and it just says, guy who does This Is How We Do It dies at age 45. Guy who sang This Is How We Do It dies. This Is How We Do It guy found dead. Da, da, da. And I'm thinking to myself, is that
all that I am?
I am. I'm the guy that did This Is How We Do It. I'm found here. That's me. Yeah. And so
I was still trying to find out where the condo was.
It's downtown. You was like, is he back to this again? He got a condo. I don't know. I'm gonna kill him.
We gotta pay taxes on that. Wait.
Yeah. So literally, that was one of the places where when I started living. This may be a book one day, but the idea is I need to live after the ellipsis. The ellipsis is that when you see Montell Jordan, the guy that did This Is How We Do It, ... That's the ellipsis. But went on to help save 1 million marriages.
Right.
Went on to do great musical works. Went on to travel the world and help bring people to Jesus. All of those type of things were things that caused us, one, to help the motivation to write these books, but just to tell our story in a practical and transparent way, man. It don't take that much just to tell people the truth, just the grimy truth.
Right.
You know? Sometimes you need it like that.
I think people want to hear the truth, right? They're not interested in oh, it's perfect, and you want to do this, so you can be perfect. It's like, no, we messed up really, really bad.
Yeah. Right.
And it's in our experiences, is in the things that we messed up, that God redeemed even the dumbest of things. And he uses the silly things, right? And we're those silly things.
They're the things that you don't expect.
Absolutely.
All the time.
So for us, like, if he could fix this, he could fix anybody. He got your situation. If he fixed us and all the drama we went through,
right?
I mean, think about it.
You're easy.
Yeah, I mean,
it's good. You're good.
An adulterer,
right, is
leading a ministry, a marriage ministry, and writing marriage books. Right. That don't make no sense. I mean, that don't make sense. That
don't make a bit of sense.
It don't make sense.
Right.
An R&B singer, hip hop R&B singer, leading worship at a church. That don't make sense.
Right.
But God will take something foolish, you know what I'm saying, to confound wise people. They don't understand it. I don't understand it. But that's how I know it's God, because it's no other way.
Because
that's
where you were at before, and a lot of people, and I don't know why people always feel like this is something to say about someone that was successful that decides to give themselves to Christ. They only doing that because he fell off. Like all R&B singers, when they fall off, they go to gospel. I don't understand why they run the gospel as soon as they fall off.
And
I don't get that.
Listen, my thought is, in order to have fallen off, you had to be on.
Right.
So, that's not the case, but you had to at least been on.
Hey.
Yo!
What up? Hey, Mr. T-Pain just walked into the building right here.
Yeah, he did.
Surprised the best out of Montell.
I felt greatness on my
other
other shoulder.
Heat on you, huh?
No doubt.
That is amazing, brother. That is amazing. And, I just really kind of hope that a lot of people pick up your book and read about you. Like I told you earlier, I saw the Unsung, and I was like, that is an amazing journey, because it's all about the journey, right?
That's it.
Right? We all think it's about
the destination.
The destination is like, okay, I'm at this destination, and I'm happy to be at this destination, and I got it all.
Not at all.
That's counterfeit. Once again, if you think there's a place that you arrive at,
there's a place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that no matter how many records we sold, no matter what we did, it was emptiness. There was no, it didn't matter. We had 6 number ones. We had number ones on us, number ones on other people, been all over the world, but seen all kind of things, and yet it still was empty. It felt nothing.
No gratification.
And until we got in church and God got a hold of us and our hearts, there was nothing. So it was like, oh man, all the success, but no significance.
Right.
Because
Deborah Cox had a number 1 pop single, didn't she?
Mm-hmm. We had the longest number 1 R&B record with her on the charts.
14 weeks.
Mm-hmm. 14 weeks.
Nobody's supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. How did you get that record to her?
That was our production team.
You
our
and
production
Shep?
team was killer. Yeah, Shep was the man. That record sat around for about a year and a half, though.
I shopped that record. First of all, I love that record. That record still gooses me.
Okay, now here goes some of the good stuff that I like to know. Who had that record and said no? Who did you hand that record to and they said no?
Yo, matter of fact, we had a I'm not gonna name his name.
Nah, B, this is a podcast. Yeah. This is what people like to know. Chris, there's no shame in the game. If they made a mistake, they made a mistake.
Okay,
because I will go back and tell you about mistakes that I have made when Mike Kaiser played Get At Me Dog for me. And I was like, this shit is terrible. that was a huge mistake. I totally missed the boat on Get At Me Dog by DMX. Okay, so.
All right, so let me start and I'll pass it.
Okay.
We wrote the song for Patti LaBelle.
Yeah.
The song was originally it was originally.
Now everybody in the room right now is playing this song in their head, and they're like, "Yeah, that's Patti LaBelle."
Let me give it to you.
Think about it, Black Butterfly.
We had a woman demo the record and sing it because we wanted her to sound like Patti LaBelle. I want you to be Patti. I want you to hear that record and know, oh, that's me. I want you to be able to hear you on that record. The second verse, this time I swear I'm through, but if only you knew.
Right.
How many times I spent these words, then fall again. When will I ever learn? Knowing these tears I cry, this lovely black butterfly. Like all the stuff.
Patti stuff.
That was Patti. Right. It was all Patti. So from that standpoint, we got the record. We got it to Miss Patti LaBelle. She heard the record, and her response was,
"Hit me back with this. This blew my mind."
She said, "I am offended that you would think I would want to do that record." She was offended.
Wrecked me. I was like, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me!"
Offended. Yeah, that. Now there's redemption of that later. There's redemption of that later. So because of that, we're now taking that record. We give it to Kristin, and she now for a year and a half is now shopping
slamming
that record.
this record. Right, like, yo, I took it to what my man. So I had like 6 A&Rs that I rocked with. Like I was like, okay, I built these 6. Every record I got, I'm going there first. So literally, and they're like, it sounds like a bunch of fat black girls. I was like, it is. What do you want from me?
How did you get here?
Right.
It sounded like church. It sounded like
who cares?
the church choir.
Like I was like, yo, this is gonna be the joint for somebody. Yeah, I don't know. You know, that church stuff it's not that. Like, listen to the record. So then I'll tell you who I end up taking it to, who loves it. Drew Dixon, who was over at Arista at the time, was like, yo, this is incredible. I have to play it for Clive. And literally, they had every diva. Every diva.
Yeah, Whitney,
Brandy, Monica, Faith.
Well, no, they didn't have Faith. Diddy was with Faith.
Yeah, but
that was subsidiary of Arista. That was Arista. They had Faith.
And they had everybody. And literally, she was the one that made it happen. But I will just say, I won't say Prudhomme, but I will. But he said, I think this is a whack record because, you know, she'd have to be like 400 pounds. I was like, don't listen like that. Listen like this is.
Why does somebody have to be 400 pounds to have the pipes to sing that record? I don't hear that.
So, and now we see what it is, right? So it's funny because, I mean, Diddy tried to buy the record.
He did
for Faith. He wanted all the
publishing.
But he wanted
all the publishing.
I was like, get out of here.
He said we'd be producers on the record. Right, and he'll make it a single on Faith because Faith was big at the time. We'll give you the first single on Faith Evans. Y'all be the producers on it, but I need all the publishing.
I was like,
so you're gonna take all and what was this check supposed to look like that you're supposed to walk away from that kind of publishing?
It wasn't gonna be worth it. I could tell you.
Not in the long run, right?
Rocks. Yeah.
So year and a half, the record sits around, and then finally at the end, when one person is now interested, then there's a bidding war.
Yeah.
For the record at that point.
Yeah.
Between who?
Sylvia.
I want details.
Sylvia and Clive at the time.
Sylvia. Who did Sylvia want it for?
Who did she want it for? Oh, she wanted it for Tamia.
Yeah, she wanted it for Tamia.
Oh, yes, I can hear that.
Clive.
We ended up doing Stranger in Our House.
Kevin wanted it.
All those records.
Kev Lyles wanted it for.
You did Stranger in My House?
Yeah. Shep and Montell. My whole production team, like that. After we got that record, then we were dealing records like crap.
Now, I didn't write Stranger in My House, but at the time, we had taken producers like Shep, and we had now built a production company, and we're churning out hits for Lil Mo. We're churning out hits for, all the female artists at that point now.
This really pops off after Deborah Cox.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the bidding war is going on. Clive grabs it.
Clive
Clive duped us. But he duped us.
Clive duped us. Clive said, we're gonna do this record on Whitney Houston.
We were like,
and
so we're like,
you had whole popping champagne like, this is about to be it.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, you gonna do that Whitney? We good. We're golden.
Right.
And the bait and switch. After that, it was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do this on Deborah. And I was like, who?
Right.
At the time, because I'm like, oh, we wasn't gonna do Faith, but we could have done Faith. We could have had Kelly. That would have been in house, all these different things, and you're gonna take it and give it to Deborah. And so we felt like that was not cool. But then,
when she stepped in the booth.
Did y'all record her?
Yeah. She stepped in the booth and literally she started saying, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I was like,
okay, so Clive,
that's it.
Clive loved the record so much that he didn't just buy the record.
Nah.
He was like, produce the record.
Oh, yeah.
I heard it, but y'all take it back, take her, and go do this record.
Yeah. And it was the jam. I'm telling you, the minute she stepped in the booth, we was like, oh, now we understand. Everybody was comparing her at the time to Whitney. He was like, this is my next Whitney, and we were like,
yeah, you shouldn't say that.
Yeah, that's a little far-reaching there.
But when she stepped in the booth, we were like, oh, I get it.
I see it.
I see why you say that. Like before, just from on the record, the up tempos and the stuff she had from the first album. I didn't hear that at all. I was like, yo, I don't know what you're talking about. But then when she stepped in that booth, I was like,
she's phenomenal.
Got it. She's incredible. Vocally,
she's phenomenal.
Yeah, she's an amazing vocalist. She's an amazing vocalist. Where did that thought process for that record come from for you as a writer?
It was Shep. That particular record, that one, Shep had the chorus of the record. And then I was like, yo, this is beautiful. Can I get on this with you? And he was like, yeah. And we had a good chemistry. A lot of the records we did back in the day, he would have great choruses and hooks. And then he would give the record to me. And because I was more of a rap, I would write the verses for the songs. And then together we put together a bridge. And we had a good chemistry. That's how we were writing songs.
Right. Do y'all
She's a
still
writer.
write together?
We still get together. We not as much anymore. He's a pastor now.
Really?
Yeah, he's a pastor of church. Experience Christian Ministries out in.
We're going out there on
Catlett.
April 14th to preach.
Big shout out to him.
Yeah, Shep he's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's always been really phenomenal. So are you guys dipping and dabbing and writing? And I know you're doing books and ministries and stuff like that, and you're ordained. Gospel music, gospel album from Montell.
So this is the quandary.
Yeah,
The voice is still there, bro, and you can do a lot of work with that voice, bro.
Here's the quandary. I've released with our church two gospel albums through our church, and we're recording more music. We're recording kids albums. The church is going to be well taken care of in regard to our writing and all our musical contributions. I'm in a place of, I'm not even call it struggle, but I'm in a place of, with all the marriage ministry stuff that we do with couples, with what music sounds like right now, I still want to be able to, I would like to be able to create an album where it's not a gospel album, but it's an album about love, where a guy who loves Jesus, a guy who loves his wife can make hot records. Because right now, when I want to be with my wife,
I don't see a problem with that.
most people,
because, you know, the first time, and I always like to use this guy as an example.
Mm-hmm.
The first time somebody handed me Andy Mineo's album, I listened to it. My man, actually, Nelson Tabotis, handed it to me, and I listened to it. I was like, yo, this is dope. Who is this kid? And he said, this kid is named Andy Mineo. And I was like, oh, dope, man. That's dope. He said, that's Christian hip-hop, Ed. I said, what?
yeah,
I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
I just heard
hotness.
great
It's
music.
hotness. Yeah.
I heard heat, and I heard a lot of themes
Yeah.
that could be taken that way. And I heard him
Yeah.
talking about his sister and his love for God, and then I was like, wow, you know, rappers like really talking about this. And then I got into Lecrae and all of these dudes.
Yeah.
So you can do that, bro.
Yeah.
Well, that's the goal. I feel like
That's not a tough balance.
you're right. It's not a tough balance. I think it is when you are an ordained minister, it becomes the challenge of the people that you lead, how they view stuff. And that's, like I said, I'm not trying to speak.
You're the leader.
No, so this is
You lead them.
So yes, but here's the key. So we do marriage conferences now, right? So and the reason why we want to do this kind of music is because at the end of it, at the end of the night one, we do like a dance.
We talk about
couples
intimacy.
event.
We talk about couples being
we
together.
preach about
Right.
it so that people like, we got to talk about this in the church, because if we don't talk about the things like intimacy, like, where are you going to talk about that at, right? So then that night we have like a dance and like, so, but what music do we play right there?
Right.
So this is, that you can play in a church.
Yeah.
So we
I
have
ain't
to
playing
have,
Freak Me Baby by Silk.
Right.
Let me lick you up
Right.
and
Yes, no,
down.
yeah,
we're not gonna play that one.
Take that off.
You're gonna play that one.
so we need content for that, right? So that's where I think is the balance and the bridge of that. And the key is to be able to do it, but have it so that it's honoring, right? So that we're not leading people astray. We know in the past that the records we did and the lyrics that we are going to be held accountable for that.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
we led a lot of people in the wrong direction based on the records we did. So I think we're more conscious of it now, and so I think that's the challenge,
balance.
if you will, and the balance that we're looking for is to do records that honor, but also are good for marriage. I mean, no disrespect, but I mean, when you're with your spouse, I'm not going to be jamming Kirk Franklin, Fred. I'm not doing it.
Right.
So I'm looking for that soundtrack,
And fortunately, I've had a life prior to ministry that if you put out a Montell Jordan album, I would probably have more buzz on saying I put out a Montell Jordan album than me putting a Jesus quote out there. I can quote the Bible. I can put phenomenal stuff out there and get a couple of hits or a couple of different retweets
Yeah, but
or whatever.
that's part of your gift.
Yeah.
So you got a new gift, and now you want to deny the old gift. The old gift was what God gave you in the first place, was that fantastic, distinctive voice, which is Montell Jordan. So now that you're a pastor and a minister and you're doing couples ministry and you're doing that, you couple that along with that first gift. Now you're leading people in the right direction, and it needs to be done. It can only be done by a contemporary cool dude like you.
Who's preaching now?
Who's preaching now? Which is fantastic.
Where T-Pain? I need a T-Pain record.
Well, y'all talk about that. Man, will you guys, will you come back?
Oh,
Please,
yeah.
so we can talk some more.
Yes,
because I can do 2, 3, 4 hours with you guys on the podcast. So I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna call this part 1.
Amen.
All right,
and then the next part we'll just talk couples and ministry, and because we didn't get deep into the do's and the don'ts of it, because we had to go background and get all of that stuff out the way. So we'll call this part 1.
all right.
All right.
Real
That's
talk.
what we'll do. Real talk.
Real talk.
We'll call this part 1.
Let's do it though.
I would love to.
All right.
Thank y'all, man. I appreciate y'all so much. It's
Thank you.
fantastic to see y'all again.
We love
You
you.
too.
Yeah, we still here.
We love you, man.
You know what I mean? Like when it's all said and done, when you see somebody you've known for 20 some odd years, you be like, wow.
That's right.
And in good health, and we're still here by God's graces, and we're still around doing things that we love to do. It is absolutely amazing when you look around and be like, man, wow, Craig Mack died at 46
Yeah,
that's
man.
crazy.
of heart failure.
That's
so you got to be like,
Yeah.
That one break. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I
breaks my
mean?
heart, man.
And like what you were talking about earlier about the ... after the This Is How We Do It guy, it was New York rapper Craig Mack from Flavor in Your Ear. Nothing about what he was doing inside the church and everything else when he walked away from it. You know, God called him not. He didn't even take the money Puff offered him for the Bad Boy 25th anniversary tour. He was like, no.
I'm good on it.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm good. I don't need that. I got this over here that's fulfilling to me. I'm not going back over there, and nobody wants to talk about that. It was just the Flavor in Your Ear guy.
Yeah.
You know, the Yo MTV Raps guy.
Yeah.
The This Is How We Do It guy. But we're more than that.
Yeah, we are.
Absolutely.
And people have to. So we'll talk. Please come back and do part 2. All right,
Couldn't have
I'd
it
love
any
to.
other way.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much. This is Come On, Son, the podcast, man. Appreciate you, Montell and Kristin, for being here with me this afternoon, man. Y'all keep God first. Everything else will fall into place. I'll talk at you, with you, to you, and about you next Monday. And don't forget, this is brought to you by Cigars International and locally by Nissan South Morrow. Go to cigarsinternational.com. When you check out Ed10, Ed10 OFF is my promotional code. You put it in and you get 10% off your purchase, all right? Y'all be well. Bye-bye. This Ed Lover podcast is being done in conjunction with Cigars International. Make sure you check out cigarsinternational.com for all your cigar needs.
This episode of Come On, Son, the podcast is produced and engineered by co-executive producers Kimana Paulus and Krista Hayes. Recorded at Mean Street Studios in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, this is an official Loudspeakers Network podcast.